Welcome to podcast by Professor Cathy Tran. My name is Cathy, professor, entrepreneur, and business coach. After working with hundreds of founders, I have learned one truth. Success isn't luck. It's built through vision, grit, and community. So we are live streaming on Facebook. So feel free to drop your question, comment, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel to replay and weekly inspiration. I also want to share that today's episode is part of Global Entrepreneurship Week of North Texas, a global celebration of innovation, entrepreneurship across more than 180 countries. This week brings together entrepreneurs, students, founders, and community leaders to connect, learn, and inspire one another through the spirit of dream boldly and build bravely. This special podcast episode is our contribution to that international event, a way to highlight the voice of Vietnamese American entrepreneurs to show the world that our community in the United States is creating strong, innovative, and resilient businesses. Today's guest is someone I truly admire, not only of what he's built, but for how he's built it. I first met Toan Luong at the SBA Tribe program back in 2023. We connected instantly over entrepreneurship and community. But honestly, I had been a fan long before that. During the pandemic, my husband and I have a date night at Ampersand, this cozy modern coffee bar that turned into a cocktail bar at night. And I remember thinking, whoever think about this play really understand people. So fast forward 2 years, I realized the person behind it is sitting right next to me in the SBA Tribe program. So today he's building a very famous, recognizable brand across DFW, expanding into the DFW airport, which is one of the largest airports in the whole world. And he's serving as the chair at Tarrant County College Business Advisory Committee. And he's also a member of the board of directors at the Forward Chamber. So his story includes immigrant roots, dropping out of Texas Christian University, and being rejected by 70 banks before one said yes. And yes, here he is, leading one of the fastest growing coffee branch in our DFW area. So Toan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm really grateful to be here. I want you to know that I'm equally as grateful to know you as well. And, knowing your story of you and your husband coming to my coffee shop, even prior to even us knowing each other, it's really special to me. So, excited to be here and excited to meet everyone that's listening.
Absolutely. So Toan, before we jump into the Ampersand business, before all the success, I love to talk about your why and the start at the beginning. So tell the audience, where did you grow up? And what
Yeah.
was it like to be the son of Vietnamese immigrant here in Texas? And I remember you told me your mom was sewing and your dad was custodian. So what do you see when you grow up?
Go like I can easily say that like we didn't have it easy growing up, but um at the same time I've been very lucky to have two grateful, two hardworking, two loving parents. Obviously my mom was sewing night and day, and my dad was working for the school system. And so when you grow up like that, and with me too, I grew up in Denver, Colorado, and then we moved here to Texas. But not only was I the youngest in my family, I felt like I was in between two generations, an older Vietnamese first generation immigrant side, and also, as a millennial, I was on the cusp of the millennial side. So, living between two generations, it taught me a lot. Seeing my parents struggle taught me a lot too, as well. But now that I look back at it too, I wouldn't change anything. With that being said, I did really well in high school, and going through that process, I saw my parents sacrifice a lot. And so, that kind of built up the work ethic and I would say the dreams and aspirations for more.
So that is something that we can really relate. Immigrant family carry that individual pressure, right? You want to make your parent proud, to live the dream that your parent couldn't, right? But
Yep.
they came here and they had to restart all over again, and they had to do like entry level job just to put her to school, right? So do you always feel like you were meant to be an entrepreneur, or was it life push you in it later?
No, life definitely pushed me later ago. Like I wish I could tell you that I had a vision and, aspirations to be an entrepreneur, but for me, it all came from my failures. So, growing up as an Asian person, and not only that, the daughter of immigrants, I'm the son of immigrants. They want the most for you, and so, traditionally, they wanted me to become a doctor. They wanted me to become a lawyer and engineer, but the plan was to become a doctor. And in my head, it was to become a doctor, go to school, and then take care of them. But just like anything else in life, it did not go as planned. That perfect model Asian stereotype that we often live by, us ourselves. Um, I really broke that mold. And long story short, within my first year of college, I did really well in high school. Uh, I got a full ride to TCU with a wonderful scholarship called Community Scholars. Everything was paid for, and instead of being grateful for the opportunity and making the most out of it, I kind of did the opposite, and I gave it up. I lost my scholarship. So within that first year, I got kicked out of my dorm. I got kicked out of my scholarship, and pretty much I got kicked out of this school. And so my entrepreneurial journey started from there, not knowing where to go, not knowing what to do, and having no other choice but to figure it out and to figure a way to not only be successful, but to be a good son to take care of my parents.
Wow. So, and for the audience who listen, who wonder who's TCU, is Texas Christian University, and it's one of the best private university in DFW and also in United States. So, Toan, you really smart. You got a full ride, but then you lost it.
Not very
So,
smart. Okay.
but again, we all make mistake, right? And by bringing you here, what I'm trying to tell to us all is we always try to do our best, but we all make mistakes, and we all had to forgive ourselves for the mistake we make. But then also we have to be honest and honest so that we can moving forward. So tell me what next about your entrepreneurial journey. So you got kicked out, you went to University of Texas Arlington, and what next?
Yeah, so I went back to school at UTA. At that point, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my life. I was trying to get into dental school. I was working for dental offices, and for me, as much as I tried to get in, I couldn't get in. And one thing led to another. I got my degree in business administration. I was at a point in my life, go Kathy, that like I was, feeling kind of a little bit ashamed, right? I had a lot of friends that were my age who were making their parents proud. They were becoming doctors, lawyers, dentists, and here I am. My parents worked so hard, believed in me, and I had nothing to show for it. And so I'm not very religious. I'm not very well. I am spiritual now, but in that moment in time, I just felt like I was very lost. And so also during that moment in time, I kind of prayed to God for some direction in my life, not knowing what that would lead to, and more importantly, like what that consisted of. I just knew that I needed to get my life together and to really kind of do what it took to make my parents proud. Um, Although I was really young, maybe I was in that moment in time, I was like 22. I felt like the whole world was crashing upon me. Um, but also in that moment in time, I felt like it was up to me to kind of change my life. And so, yeah, long story short, after a trip home from Vegas, ironically, I decided to change my life. And long story short, I just knew I had a calling. I didn't know what it was. And so it was about 3 a.m. I had some ideas. I texted my friends in my group chat asking if, anyone would join me in for a business. No one said anything. It was a group of 16 guys that I hung out all the time. They thought I was playing around, but my best friend, that's my business partner now, he was the only one to say yeah. And so you fast forward, today we just celebrated our 8th year anniversary. Been working on this for 10 years now. but we're at three coffee shops in the airport working on our third one. Two coffee shops outside with another one to come too as well. So, I look back at everything and I'm just really grateful for it too. But, going through those dark times, long story short, we came up with the plan for Ampersand. And Ampersand is not my vision. I want to just make that clear. It is really a reflection of not only my skill sets, but my friends' skill sets and my business partner's skill sets. So Ampersand it's a modern day coffee shop that also encompasses a cocktail hour as well. And so, for us, we are a full day one-stop shop, whether it's in the morning, whether it's at night. It's a community spot for you not to only get a cup of coffee, for you to get a cocktail, but very much what like our name implies, it's a space for you to come and connect. And so, we've been, we were really graciously given a spot in West 7th, the location that you visited, and that's where my entrepreneurial journey started. But with that being said, I have an amazing team, Kathy. My team consists of four people, and I always tell people all the time that I'm the least talented on my team. And so, I have Michael who runs my bar operations. He has over 25 years of hospitality experience. He's been a bartender, a manager, a business bar owner, and I met him coincidentally through partying, right? And through and like uh, when I was younger, I would work for my boss, Kathy, and we would work really hard during the week. And on the weekends, it would be my job to go find the best parties and the best tables. So that's where
With
I
your boss.
with my boss, yeah, right. So it's so funny, and that's how I met Michael. Was that like going through these bars, I was like, man. When the time came to open up Ampersand, me and Hui, the one that was in the group chat with me, I was like, who do I know that no, that knows how to run a bar. And so Michael was the perfect fit. And then the second person, obviously, is Mimi. I've known Mimi
Mhm.
since I was in ninth grade. She was in 11th grade. We started playing tennis together. Long story short, I don't know how or why, but her boyfriend and her let me sit by them and we became close friends. Out of high school, she started working, and in high school, actually, she worked at coffee shops. Out of high school,
Right.
she created two of her own. And when the time came for me to ask her about, this specific concept in itself, she said yes to as well.
Wow.
And then Hui, the one that actually said yes to me, he is, obviously he started the company with me, Mimi and Michael. But in our group, when we first started, Kathy, I was so naive. I thought that we can just open up a business and just be successful. We had zero money, Kathy. And long story short, having so little money, we had to do everything ourselves. So from construction, from painting to nailing to plumbing, you name it, we had to do it. And Hui really stepped up. And now he's our person in charge for anything construction related. All the shops
Right.
that we have outside the airport, inside the airport, we built ourselves. And more importantly, too, now he's really risen up his skills too. We just built a $2 million concert venue at Hong Kong, Asian Times Square, their new concert venue, and we're building
Okay.
more restaurants too as well. So
Right.
yeah, so it's a point being, this is a reflection. I am very lucky. My company is just I've been very lucky with the right people in my life and just the right timing.
So I love your journey, and just so that the audience understand, most small business doesn't have that kind of journey. Okay, I work with a lot of small business and entrepreneurs, and usually they stay small. They have a shop and they stay there, and it passed down from the parent to the children, or maybe they sell it. But you go from one location to two locations, and now you have multiple locations in the airport, and you keep expanding to build your coffee empire. But I want the audience to know that it's actually not an easy journey. Okay, the way you fast forward your 10 years journey, it sounds like it's a straight shoot to the moon, but that's not how it works. And so let's talk about the heartbreak. Let's talk about the challenge. Okay, So I do remember you told me that when you are trying to build a location in airport, there was a lot challenge. So why don't you share that with the audience so they know what they get into?
Yeah, this was just like 2 years ago. It feels
Mm-hmm.
like it was like 10 years ago, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I've aged. I wouldn't say aged, but I've grown a lot within these 2 years. Yeah, long story short, we were really lucky. We got into the Dallas Fort Worth Airport. Dallas Fort Worth Airport, as a whole, is number three in the world right now. Uh,
Yes.
Annually, we see anywhere between 90 and then I think this past year we saw 93 million people just pass through every year. Right now, it's actually the busiest time of the year. This For the next 2 weeks, we're going to see about like 3 to 4 million people just flying in and flying out. But with that being said, getting into the airport was probably one of the hardest things in my life. Um, how I got into the airport. So long story short, I was onto my building my second location, and during that time, Kathy, I was working a full-time job, which was managing 5 dental offices, and then managing and opening up two coffee shops that we had in that time. And so I was very tired, and I was like, where would I put my next coffee shop? And so naively for me, I went online. I was like, oh my gosh, I would put it in the airport. And very like it's for me. I think timing is everything. And I got very lucky because that same day that I was looking it up, the airport was hosting a convention. And so I went to the convention. And so I went during my lunch break, during work. I went to this convention, and from the moment I got there, I knew that I did not belong, Kathy. Everyone was teamed up, and everyone looked like they were a C-level executive. And long story short, I signed in. I was kind of nervous, and there was nowhere to sit. So, the only spot left was in the front row. Long story short, Mr. Donahue, who was the CEO, came on. He talked a little bit about the airport, and then the vice president of the airport came on, Mr. Buchanan. Mr. Buchanan basically said, I'm looking for young entrepreneurs, I'm looking for great concepts, and I'm looking for representation both in Dallas and in Fort Worth. And so, in my mind, as a Fort Worth resident, I automatically started connecting the dots. One thing led to another. You fast forward a few years. When I first approached him, I basically told him what he asked for. I was like, Ken, you do not know me, but I am an entrepreneur from Fort Worth. I have an amazing team, and I have an amazing concept that I think that I do well in the airport. And Kathy, he just looked at me and he was like, "It's not that simple, young man, but if you're really about it, here's my card, and we'll talk about it."
And
And
and I did want the audience to know that Toan make it sound really easy to get an airport, but it's not, okay? Because as a professor and business coach, I have had many companies to try to get in there, and it's one of the most competitive place to get in there. And it's also tremendously expensive. So you have to have a lot of financial backing to be able to be in there. And there's not a lot of Asian business in there either. Maybe you are one of the very few that I can count on my one hand. Am I correct?
yeah, I think I'm the only Asian CEO in the moment
Mm-hmm.
in time in the
Right.
restaurant space. So yeah, getting into the airport, thank you, Kathy. It's very hard. So, just to give you some reference, there's 260 restaurants in our airport alone, and they're owned
Mm-hmm.
by 13 groups. And you
Right.
might be wondering why it is so hard. It is so hard because not, it is literally the major leagues of hospitality. You're open 365 days of the year. Our shop is open from 5 a.m. to, there's no closing time. You close when the last flight is. And regardless of it's rain, snow, sleet, a blizzard, you have to open. And so the level of operations are there, but then the barrier to entry that keeps the majority of people out is the cost. So, on street side, we spend around anywhere between 150 to $200 per square foot. In the airport, we're spending $1,500 a square foot. And so my coffee shop inside the airport, although it's half the size of, of the one outside, it costs about 4 to 5 times more. About our little coffee shop costs about $2.5 million. And then you're right too, Kathy. Whenever the airport wants a certain wants a certain concept, whether it be a coffee shop, a hamburger place, or whatever, they'll release a contract. And when it goes out, it does not just go locally, it goes nationally and then it goes globally. And so
Mhm.
you're competing not only with the other 13 groups in the airport, but you're competing against everyone in the world, which, in our industry is dominated by four major players who have departments that all they do is write these contracts. And they're called RFPs, which is like a request for a proposal. And
Right.
basically you have to turn it's 150 pages of your business of what you would do in the airport, what your business is about, the financials, the story, the operations, and you turn it in and you that's how you compete. And so yeah,
Right.
these companies have endless amounts of money and certain departments that all they do is that. So there's
So
one
you like the David the fighting against the Goliath, and we have let me see, we have about 9 minutes left. So I really want to dedicate that time to for people understand the challenge because we thought that you had the money to get in, and then the
yeah.
carpet got pulled beneath your feet. So tell us about that journey because that's really I want to highlight that for the last few minutes we have with the audience.
No problem, Kathy. Yeah, getting into the airport was, we had to beat Starbucks, we had to beat Dunkin', we had to beat Pete's. And
Mm-hmm.
winning it was one thing. I don't know, for me, I really dedicated that time in my life to just beat them. And that was just the beginning of the journey, Kathy. So getting into the airport, although difficult, was literally the easiest piece. When we got into the airport, we are about 70% in. With that being said, getting in and winning that contract, we were the youngest restaurant group in airport history, the only Vietnamese, Asian American group as well. And then I became the youngest CEO for concessions in airport history too, as well. And so the pressure was there. 70% in, I had an investor, and long story short, he had to pull out. We're about a month away from actually opening up. The airport was asking me when I would open up, the news outlets, and then more importantly, the construction company was asking where their money was. And so I went from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows in a matter of like seconds. And I was at a point in my life where I didn't know what to do again. I I felt as though I had nothing, no resolution. But in that moment in time, I got something really special that I would never take back, even though it was hard. Um, we were on the brink of bankruptcy,
Mm-hmm.
$2.6 million in the hole, and we had no way and no means of paying that back. And this is where you come in too, as well. Luckily for me, 6 months prior to, to the whole thing falling apart, I was taking classes at the SBA office. I knew for some reason that I needed to go. Uh,
Right.
just new. And to be honest with you, for the first 5 months, I didn't really learn much. But that week prior to my investor pulling out, what we learned was to raise capital. And
Right.
coincidentally, when that happened, it all kind of clicked for me. I called back the SBA director, Elsie, and
Right.
that's how we're connected, Kathy. And
Yes.
he gave me a bank of 70 banks. Long story short, I called every single one of them and I got rejected by all of them. They all said the same things. You're too young, you have no experience, and you have no cash flow to support a $2.5 million loan.
Right.
And I was on the brink of giving up, like literally an inch away. And for some reason, I just knew that I just need to stick in there. And later that day or that following day, I got a phone call from the city that I wanted Small Business of the Year. And so
Oh.
I took that as a sign from God, and I called back the last bank that was a little bit more open to us. I
Mm-hmm.
basically told him, I was like, hey, I know that I'm the biggest financial risk that you've ever made, but if you invest in me, I'll be the best investment you've ever made. And then 2 days later, they gave me an opportunity. You know,
Wow.
you fast forward now, go Kathy. I am now working on our third location in the airport. But more importantly, too, going through those struggles that I've been through, my goal and my mission now is to not only help young Vietnamese entrepreneurs, fulfill their dreams, but to help local restaurants like me get into the airport and with equity structures and deal structures that has never been seen here. And so
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel really grateful. I know I'm kind of like making it fast, but yeah, that's the gist of the story. Yep.
Right. I mean, we can always invite you for another episode. So Toan, this is the reason why that I chose you to be on my show during the Global Entrepreneurship Week. Okay. I want the world to know that Vietnamese immigrant, even though we are a small population in the US, but we create mighty businesses. So we have, let's see, we have about 4 minutes left. So I know I keep saying that because for listener, what we're doing is right now we have a 30 minutes in English so that everyone can understand a Toan journey. But then after that, we will switch gears into Vietnamese language. Okay, we have the radio to call us, and then we will air in entirety of the view. So that I'm on a mission to keep us on time. All right, so Toan, incredible journey. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being vulnerable. So you face rejection, setback, long night, moment when you almost gave up. What is the biggest lesson entrepreneurship had taught you?
So many lessons. Go like for me, it's um, number one thing is failure and resilience, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, when I was going through what I was going through, I just wish that I had someone to tell me like to just keep on going. Entrepreneurship is not only about, for me, it's not just about business, it's really a reflection of life. And so whatever you're going through, just make sure that you keep going forward and then having just having top of mind the power of teamwork, the power of faith, the power of being honest with yourself and humility. And, I would like to end it with this because it's Global Entrepreneurship Week and for all aspiring, entrepreneurs out there, Vietnamese, Asian or not, to really set your goals and to set your dreams very high. I feel as though our community, our society, we always aim too low. And when that happens, we're really doing ourselves a disfavor. And so my final statement would be to all
Hello?
shoot for the stars.
Yes.
Hello?
All right. Look like the radio station's there. So Nam Phương, hang on tight, okay?
Hello,
Um,
dạ chị.
okay, I'm still recording for the English session. So give me 1 minute. I'm closing up. Okay. So Toan, thank you so much. Your story show that success isn't about where you start. It's about what you build along the way. So for everybody watching, remember success is built daily through small choices, strong habit, and belief in your story. So if this episode inspires you, I want you to share it. I want you to tag Ampersand. Okay. I want you to tell us your biggest takeaway. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I do this kind of entrepreneur story every 2 weeks. And then I upload my YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe and sign up for my newsletter so that you can get the most update about when it's coming out. Also, if you are ready to take your business to the next level, visit my website, twinconsulting.com, or message me for a free 15-minute clarity